Hey, hello everybody. My name is Chance, and today we are doing an episode of the Everything Animation Podcast. This is unedited. I'm just going to put the whole thing up. I have an industry professional on today who is going to tell us some of his experiences going through school to become an animator. Did he ever, want to do anything different? And some of his experiences actually being an animator in the field. So, how you doing, dude?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you for coming on, man. So, we're going to jump right into it. I got some questions for you.
Okay, fire away.
All right. So, what school did you go to?
I went through an online school. They're based in California, but everything's done completely online. They're called Animation Mentor.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a good school. Basically, they pair you up with different mentors from let's say DreamWorks, Pixar, Disney, ones who apply for the position. You get a different one each semester. So I started out with a really good teacher in my first semester from Disney, and that was a great first experience and introduction to animation.
Oh, that's really cool. And how many semesters is there?
There are, I believe it's, yeah, 6 3-month semesters, so it's like an 18-month course.
Okay, so a year and a half then.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
well, about and did you always do animation, or were you doing other things other than animation?
it took me quite a while to pursue my goals in animation, actually. I had always wanted to become an animator ever since I was 14 years old,
Wow.
but I managed to get a cushy job as a tech support agent, and I was living at home at the time. I was just like, I'm making money, who cares? Like, I'll just stick with this for a while. But eventually they cut some staff down at that building, and tech support was the first to go. So that gave me the push I needed to finally apply for school, which I'm very happy for.
Wow, that's awesome. So, does Animation Mentor only do animation, or do they do like game animation? Okay, I guess I should say it like this. Do they do all types of animation, and do they also do visual effects kind of classes? Do they have, um, modeling and animation, 2D animation? What do they have there?
I can't speak fully for like what they do now, but for what I've been seeing recently, they've been expanding. When I first started an animation mentor, they just had focusing on like movie style animation courses, which can also get you into cartoons, of course, which is where I am now. Uh, since then, they released a creature course, which involved dragons and ogres and stuff to help you get fluent in that kind of animation.
More
And now
visual
they
effects
have,
stuff, right?
yeah, I've seen some of the student pieces. They involve, what is it,
Live
match
action
move?
sets.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
live action setting, and then they animate the creature in that. Um, they've also got a storyboarding course now, and what else? I know they've got like an advanced creature course. I'm pretty sure that's on there, and I think they also might have one specialing in video game, but don't quote me on that.
No, I won't. Don't worry. I'm gonna try to get someone from each one of the schools actually on the podcast. Someone who's going to the school right now. I already have. I've already talked to VFS, and I have people. Like I'm in contact with their 3D program, and I'm gonna be having people on the podcast pretty soon that are actually going to the course or that are in the classes right now. So I'm gonna do that for all of the other schools. At least that's my hopes. So if you're
Nice.
going
Yeah.
to Animation Mentor and you're listening to this, send me an email. Email is down below, and you can be on the podcast. Let me know about the school, completely anonymous, and help everyone else out that is looking maybe into which animation school to go to, and give them some information, the inside details.
Yeah.
You always wanted to be specifically a 3D animator, or did you ever want to dabble in like 2D or any other kind of part in the field?
Uh, the whole thing about me wanting to do 3D animation was originally I started interested in 3D modeling back during the Half-Life 1 modding craze, back when that was really popular. I messed around with that a bit. I'd make like weapons and stuff, but I was never able to really dig deep into the character modeling sides. It was like, oh, I'll be a concept artist. Let's try that. And I never felt like I excelled a lot in drawing. I'm sure it was just a time and dedication thing. So I kind of flopped onto animation. I was like, well, if I can't make my own characters, I'm going to bring the characters that other people create to life. And I never really practiced it, but I held on to the idea until
Okay.
I finally went to school for it. The whole thing about 2D animation is I thought at the time that you needed to draw the characters, so I never really thought about that too much.
Yeah, now with
But
Flash and Animate CC and Harmony, they just kind of have preset characters and rigs
y-
that you move
yeah,
around.
they have the rigs and the puppet controls. They do a bit of drawing and stuff too, but not near as much as they used to.
Yeah, it's no Disney animation where you're
Yeah,
animating, you're like drawing every single
you're,
frame from
you're not
scratch.
drawing on cells or flipping pages. Yeah.
No. Um. Okay. So, were you able to work well in school, or was it like way too full time?
What did I do to start off? In the beginning, I think I just did part-time security work. I'm pretty sure I got a job in security fairly soon after starting animation.
Just part time, I'm guessing.
Yeah, animation school. Yeah, just part-time. Doing full-time. I've known some people who did full-time work because they had to while going through Animation Mentor, and it affects the amount of focus that you can pour into your work, and it kind of showed on their final product. Like they knew it. There's
Yeah.
like I just wasn't able to put as much time into it as I'd like to. So if you're going through an animation school, I suggest just doing part-time work if you have to work at all.
Yeah, I've also seen like that kind of thing happen when I went through school. Not because people were working, but because people lived so far away. They had to catch the last train, and so they weren't able to
Yeah.
stay up and um, work throughout the night or like leave at 1 o'clock when they felt that they had done a full day's work. They had to leave when that last bus was going to leave or when their parents could pick them up. And yeah, so when you're actually going to a physical school, I've seen that it's a lot better if you live like walking distance is
Oh,
obviously the
really?
best.
Yeah.
Um, unless you can, grab that 1 o'clock sky train or something. Um, that's still okay. But of course, walking distance lets you, if you want to wake up really, really early, get 3 hours of sleep, and wake up at, 3 o'clock in the morning and go back to school, you have that opportunity because you're so
Yeah.
close.
I never really considered that when I was going through school because I mean, I just had to walk from my bed to my computer desk.
Exactly.
So I guess that's part of the advantage of taking an online school.
Yeah. And
There was a lot of advantage and disadvantage to it. Like, so I think I cut you off. What were you gonna say?
no, I was just gonna agree with you that it's just there's. I'm saying like it's the same thing. Where there's this distraction of oh, I have to get home at this certain hour when you're going to a school, or when you're doing an online course, you like, well, oh, I can just do whatever I want, I can get a job, and you're not focusing on the animation, you're not focusing on even if you're doing modeling, visual effects, whatever it is, you're not able to like focus completely on that because you're like, oh man, I got like that time thing right there, I need to get home by this time, or you know um in your case, oh, I got to go to my work, and you're focusing on work and you're spending all your energy at work, and you're not focusing on animation. Of course, if you need to do it, then, to actually pay for the school,
Yeah.
um, it's hard. Like, it's, you really should be focusing on the school because if that's what you're doing, you want to put everything you are into it because animation like takes everything that you are. I don't know. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it takes so much focus. Like in the beginning, I could see you could probably get away with working full time for the first semester, maybe the second, while you're doing just a basic animation introduction, bouncing ball and like walk cycle with a ball with legs and stuff. Uh, I had a fair amount of free time in the beginning, so I think I could have worked more. But after that introduction's over, you really got to pour your heart and soul into it. I understand at the same time that everyone comes from different life situations where you might need that money, in which case I would go for it versus never being able to go for it at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if you have the opportunity to like get a loan and if you really feel like you're good enough at animation, from my experience at least, it'd be better to pour everything you have into doing that if that's what you're going to be doing. And
Absolutely,
then
because the end result, like what you come out of school with, is your resume. That's your demo reel that you're going to be sending people, and that will decide if you get a job or not.
right, and if you get a job, it's probably going to pay more than if you had your part-time job working, a dollar more than minimum wage. You know, if you put
Yeah,
yourself into the animation, there's a lot. It's way easier to grow as far as like how much money you're making in animation, at least in the beginning, to a point where you're a professional within like a year or two.
yeah, like try and get that loan or a student line of credit or something with a low interest rate. That's what I
Yeah,
managed to do. So I managed to pay for some semesters and also pay for some living expenses to kind of the stuff that I couldn't afford. I could just put it on my line of credit. Um, that will pay itself off in the long run if you're able to get a job earlier,
yeah, you got to
as
work for it
opposed
though.
to, yeah, exactly. Like it's a pain having all that debt, but you'll be making more in the long run with that investment.
Exactly. Um, Sorry, that was just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah,
Um,
no problem.
so what inspired you to do animation in the first place when you were 14?
Um, Let me think here. I don't know if you can hear the noise in the hall. Some people just
Don't worry
came
about it.
back
It's
into
all
their
good.
apartment. Uh, what inspired me? I don't even remember. I think I just liked art and the idea of making stuff move. I grew up like watching Reboot, and I really liked animated films. I can't quite put my finger on what ones, but it's just a lot of influences in general. Oh, that's what it was. Okay, now it's coming back to me. I Because I was working with the Half-Life mod teams and stuff. I love video games. I wanted to be a video game animator. And now
Oh,
that I'm in
okay.
the industry, I find working cartoons. I enjoy cartoons. I kind of it's I wouldn't say love hate, but love working on all different shots because sometimes I feel like I can have a short attention span, and like moving on to something different without spending like 3 weeks on one shot can be refreshing. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind more time to spend like really polishing something. There's different things to love about all aspects of animation. Video game sounds very fast paced too. You're like working on a lot of cycles and different things like that, unless you're in a cinematic team, which is essentially, at least in my mind, would be similar to movie.
Yeah, I from my experience, I have a friend working on cinematics right now, and they said that it's kind of in between TV and movie, and at points it can also be like even higher than movie because they're trying to sell their game through the cinematic is really what the cinematics are for. Like, I mean, if
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is like a commercial type cinematic, like the League of Legends type, but
yeah.
I know also there's like the cinematics within the game, in which case it's kind of like those ones are a little bit more like TV animation sometimes, depending on the
Okay.
game, really.
Man, they should just spend more time on in-game cinematics if that's the type of game you're making.
Yeah.
Something about like game trailers these days is I find myself skipping through it or just I don't know. I wish I'd see more gameplay footage. The cinematic trailers, they look cool, but
They tell you nothing.
I just look for like what's the game gonna be like these
Yeah.
days.
I totally see where that. I mean, that's like being shown a product being used, but you don't know how it's used. You don't see the interface. It's like, oh yeah, it can do this for you. It's like, yeah, that all of these other products can do this for me too. I want to know what yours does different. Like, why,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
That's
that's cool.
precisely it.
It may be even worse than that. It's like, hey, look at this drill. Look how pretty this drill is. It's like, all right, cool. It's like, Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't care about like the nice 3D model you can like render. Just show me like what the actual tool does, right?
Yeah, it's not showing you the performance of what you're buying at all.
Yes, exactly. That might have been a bad example, but it's the first thing that came to my head.
It makes sense though. Well, yeah, that's just a bit of a tangent. It's just something
Yeah.
that's been on my mind with like the recent E3 and everything. It's like, man, I don't know what any of these games are actually gonna be like. It's all just a bunch of cinematic trailers.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Anyway, so I want to talk more about animation stuff. So, with animation, I find it really hard to talk about animation with somebody because you first have to talk about, are you talking about 3D animation, 2D animation? Within each one of those, are you talking about Flash, Harmony? Are you talking about like classic drawn? Are you talking about 3D stuff where it's, you've got your like game, your cinematic game animation. You have visual effects animation. You have TV visual effects animation. You have TV animation, movie animation, cartoony, realistic. There's so much. So for you, when I ask when you're a 3D animator, it still doesn't tell me. Um, have you always done cartoon TV animation, or have you done cinematic? Have you done any one of those other ones I listed?
No, I since my first career job in animation, it's always been cartoons.
Always
No.
cartoons for TV.
Yeah, I've never yeah, I did some YouTube stuff and yeah, Netflix and TV, but never done any video game stuff, never done any film, nothing like that. I'd love to get into film eventually and try that out, but that's a steeper step to climb.
Yeah, definitely. Their expectation on quality is just through the roof, you know? Like
Yeah.
everything has to be perfect. The pinky might be out of whack and they could like fire you for that. Well, they're
That's
probably not gonna
just
fire
it.
you, but
That pinky's bent. We were
yeah.
gonna write a revision note, but instead we're just giving you a pink slip.
Okay, yeah. Maybe they won't fire you, but they'll definitely talk about it in the what is that called? The dailies
Oh yeah, like
or
your
weeklies or whatever.
review or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, overall it's pretty chill, I think. I think movies are pretty good from what I've heard anyway.
yeah, so you feel like in general like it's not a personal attack on you when you're getting notes. I just made a video about this, so I'm interested in your view.
Oh yeah, some people can get really defensive or just ignore notes altogether. Even in even like oh, what was I gonna say? I just totally lost my train of thought. Uh, yeah, I've known some people to get fairly defensive over notes. I've known a number of lead animators, and they have some people just ignore certain notes altogether, and they have to like rewrite it
Hmm.
and kind of really drive the point home to be like, no, you have to make this change. I'm your lead, and sometimes the animator will actually take it up and argue with them. I mean, it's okay to explain your point and try to make the leads see what you were going for, but it's another thing to argue that point and disagree with them. You can disagree and try to see if you can convince them one way, but at the end of the day, like they're your lead and it's your job to work under them. So you have to kind of make that change. You can't be stubborn and bullheaded about this stuff.
Yeah, I agree. When I was in the industry, I have to say though, I did get some notes that they literally didn't make sense for the scene. For instance, like so I was doing layout and I got a note on the positioning of one of the cameras, and I said, "Well, yes." So what the note was that the storyboard had the camera on this side of the character, and I had put it on the other side of the character, and my lead just told me to change it. But I wasn't arguing with them. I just went over to them. I'm like, I'm a little bit confused because I thought we were crossing the line. I thought that drawing was wrong because it's crossing the line. Which, if you don't know what the line is, it's like you stay on the same side of characters regularly. And a few times I would just make that decision, but then the director or my lead would say, no, go back to the storyboards. and I would try to explain it. But of course, you're not. I don't like fight with them. I'm just like,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
why I changed it. I thought it was crossing the line, and then they might say, well, there's actually three characters, and the line's not really defined, or whatever, um, or something like that. And they're like, oh, just do it how the storyboard is, and you know what? If the director wants to change it later, we'll change it later. And it's like, all right, you just got to be like, all right, cool. I'm gonna do that. It's not fighting it. It's just kind of like questioning. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed
Yeah.
to ask questions. Just don't like
It's
fight
fine to
it.
make those judgment calls like you did there too, because sometimes the boards are wrong or like something isn't right, and you make that judgment call and you fix it, or at least you think you're fixing it, and sometimes it's right, sometimes you get a note to saying to change it. You just you can't be married to your work. You have to be willing to throw out stuff or change things.
So
That's
with
just
that,
part of the gig.
have you found any how do I say this? Have you found it hard to have passion for your work because you have to kind of separate yourself from it? Has like some of the passion of doing animation gone away because of that separation?
Uh no, I'd say that I'm no less passionate about it than I was when I started. Generally, I mean, I've had to throw away work before, like quite a bit that I've liked, but hmm, how can I explain further? I just, uh, I just kind of accept it. I'm not that picky about it. Some stuff really sucks, and you just kind of take a breath and move on. But no, I'd say it doesn't really affect my passion for it. I, you gotta have kind of a thicker skin than that.
Oh, that's really good because I know a lot of people who have a very hard time taking notes. Like I don't mean taking notes, but like reading
Yeah.
notes because they feel like it's a personal attack on them, and they do put their whole, their person, their creativity, their own personality, their life, into what they're making. So then when they get notes, they feel like they are being attacked. Um, and like I said in the video, like it's not about the person, but that still creates this difficulty, at least for me, of saying, well, it's not for me. Why do I care? Why should I put myself into it if they're just gonna tear it apart? So that's, you know, I'm glad that it's not like that for you. Just
I it's hard to see that happening to such a degree. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not that sensitive to it.
probably.
Must depend on the shot and like how big the change is and how much they love what they're doing. I don't know, man. It's just in my personal experience. I just get the notes and it's part of the job. It's like, all right, they want these changes made, and like revision. That's why we have days or weeks, depending on your production, dedicated to revision notes and client changes.
Yeah, do you feel rushed at all when you're working, or do you feel like you're given enough time to do the work that's given to you?
It's
Usually.
it's uh it's always a rush, really. Like uh, generally quotas are kind of measured out, assuming that you're animating at a relatively good peak performance each day, but I mean, you have a bad night's sleep, you come into work with a bad headache, it can slow you down, then you gotta try and make that up working twice as hard the next day or staying a bit late. It's that's a big topic on its
Yeah,
own.
on that topic, have you had to stay in, like, how late have you had to stay in at work for overtime? Because I know everyone has to do overtime in the industry.
I think the most was when I was a junior, so I was uh it depends on the production, depends on the studio that you're working for as to like how heavy your quotas are going to be. But I was working at one of the more challenging ones, and I was also a junior animator, so I wasn't as fast as I am today. Uh, it, I would say sometimes like, I think 14 hours was the max, 14-hour work days. I had a friend who stayed overnight before though. Like he said that was a mistake. He was pretty bagged the next day and not that useful.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I could see doing
That's
that on like a
the
Friday, maybe.
yeah. should clarify that that's the only person I've spoken to who's ever like, at least for people that I know, the only one that's ever stayed overnight at a studio working 24 hours. But yeah,
Someone, someone
14
on my
hours I
team,
would I
someone
would.
on my team that I knew, he stayed overnight at the beginning of every episode that we did,
Oh, what? Was just
and
to
he
get
would,
ahead or?
yeah, he would get half of his shots done, and then he would pretty much just chill like the rest of the month. And he would do
That's
like maybe 2 shots a day, like maybe 1 shot a day. Yeah,
that's a really interesting work style. I mean, if it worked for him, then
yeah.
that's cool if it helps him relax for the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, he was always ahead and like helping other people with their notes, so good on him for doing that.
Yeah, I could never focus overnight. By
No,
the end of the
me.
day, I'm just like, man, I want to stand up and get out of this chair.
Yeah, I
Go
know.
do
I switch
something else.
positions like every 5 seconds. You're probably gonna hear my chair move like 6 times during this. It's just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
same
keep on having
here.
to move.
I slouch a lot too. So, yeah. Just in my computer chair. Like when I walk, I stand up straight, but as soon as I hop into a computer chair, I just crouch down and yeah, get comfortable.
Do you have a standing desk at work or?
I did at the first studio I worked at. I had a standing desk. I probably didn't use it as much as I should have, but every now and then it was nice to stand. Other than that, I just like sat in my super high up chair. It was like a watchtower. It was like a status symbol by that point, having worked so many years. It's like, yeah, I'm up high.
Speaking of which, I don't actually know. How many years have you worked in the industry?
I think I'm coming up on 5. I think I'm coming close to 5 years if I'm remembering right.
Nice.
Yeah, over 4.5.
Well, congratulations when that 5 does come.
Thanks. You'll
Half
probably
double
see it on
digits.
LinkedIn.
All right.
Yeah,
So let me see. I have some questions here that I have preset.
sure.
Oh, here we go. Have you been given opportunities to try other fields in the industry? And I know that you haven't taken them, but have you even been given the opportunity to move around?
Yeah. At first I became interested in becoming a production assistant, helping with production, just because I wanted something. I don't really know like fully what's involved with their job. It's just making sure the show is delivered on time and lots of meetings with the client and stuff. I just wanted something other than animation for a bit and to try something new. I was, I'm not sure if I was offered it, but they brought it up and like what I would be able to get into, and it would have been a steep pay cut, which I just couldn't afford. So
Okay.
there was that, and I also got an offer to work 2D, get trained up doing like harmony animation on a new show, which I accepted. I was super stoked for that because they weren't going to dock pay or anything
Wow.
for being a new harmony animator. So I was all about it. But something happened, I guess, and the offer had to be retracted. They just weren't able to do it. So
Okay.
that didn't work out. But maybe eventually. I hear that studio is very good for letting you grow artistically in different fields.
Okay, that's good. I don't want to
Yeah.
get into studio names and stuff on this because don't want anyone's feelings hurt. I don't want to do that. Um,
Of course.
because you say something nice about one and all the other ones that you worked for, they might
There,
think that it's saying that they're not as good or something. I don't want any of that because it's not
I,
what we're saying.
well, the thing is, I don't have a ton of experience with a bunch of different studios. Like, the first one I was at was great getting my start. Like, I recommend it to anybody trying to, like, break into the industry, or is a lot of people like it there, too, so they can stay and they have a good time. There's a lot of great people that you work with, too. Um, the one I was at where I got that offer, I really liked it. I I love that studio. It's a great one. It was a very good team environment. The one I'm at now is it's got a lot of nice perks. It's got great people I'm working with. Basically, like every studio is a bit different, and you should work at different studios to see like what you enjoy and what they're like. And I've been told by very long-term career animators that it's good to work at different studios and it looks good on your resume to have worked at different places, so you're adjustable for different styles, adjustable for different work environments, different people you're working under, like whatever. It just it's a good thing to get experience, is what I'm saying. Like don't feel pinned down at one place. It's good to fulfill your contract with them, of course. Like, don't make a habit of bailing out on contracts before your time's up. But yeah, just I
Yeah, I
don't know,
mean,
go
if it happens,
experiment and grow. It just helps you grow as an artist and a person.
yeah, I mean, studios in my experience, which I've only worked for two, but they really, 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 really appreciate if you stay to the end of your contract,
Yeah,
because they don't want to have to, hire someone for a month,
it
to
can be
take
a
your spot.
pain. Yeah, if you do have to leave for like another opportunity or anything, try and give at least 2 weeks notice. I'd say a month if
Yeah,
you
honestly, if
can.
you can.
Yeah, and if you know that you're going to be leaving for another opportunity, just let them know when it's happening. Like, no studio is just going to up and fire you after like a week just because you're leaving for somewhere else and you gave them notice like 3 months in advance.
Yeah,
So they appreciate the notice. They appreciate knowing when you're going.
yeah,
But
and if they do have an idea, like if they really wanted you and they wanted you on their next production, telling them early might, you know, if you have an offer from somewhere else, which by the way, you should always be putting your resumes out everywhere, uh, even when you have a job, because sometimes it takes like up to, I don't know, like a year for some studios to get back to you, because they only get back to you when they're starting a new production generally. So, um, let's say you did get a contract, or you're in a contract, and you got an offer like 3 months before the end of your contract, like you were saying. It would be a
yeah,
really, really smart idea to talk to the studio and be like, well, I'm getting an offer from from this studio early, because then they can go, hey, well, we wanted him for the next, or him or her for the next project. So, let's offer them more than they're going to get paid there, so that they'll stay with us. And, that could end up really good for you. Don't threaten, obviously. Just let
yeah.
them know what your plan is, and like, just be like, yeah, so I'm planning on going over there. And if they're like, all right, yeah, sure, go over there. It's like, yeah, then go over there and take that opportunity. You know, just don't
That
burn bridges, because you most likely are gonna be working with those people in the future, or you're gonna
yeah.
be like,
I mean,
you know,
that's a really good point to
working at
make
the
too.
studio.
Like, I applied to another studio a long time ago, just because they were offering a lot more pay. I liked the project I was on. And I wanted to stay, but the increase in pay was just something I couldn't say no to. I was moving into another one-bedroom apartment, and prices had skyrocketed, especially versus the prices I was paying with a roommate at the time. So I was like, well, I need the extra money. I go over here. It seems like an all right place. I had a contract offered to me with the pay, so I went to go give my notice to my production manager, and I was like, well, I I gotta move studios. Like, I had an offer at this one. I'm gonna be paid a lot more of a living wage because my living expenses are going up so much. I just need the money. I haven't signed the contract yet, but I wanted to, like, out of a professional relationship and out of respect for you guys and the company and the production as a whole, let you know what they're making, give the opportunity to compete. Because I love to stay on the production. I love this show that I'm on, and I love working here. And they said, just give me a day to see if we can match that. I'll talk to finances and stuff. And I said, all right, I didn't expect you to actually, but if you can, I'd love to stay. And it happened.
Wow.
So that was nice. I don't recommend like applying at different places with the explicit purpose of showing like competing numbers, like, well, I got an offer here, you better pay me this much. But
Especially in your
eh,
first job or two. Like,
yeah, yeah. Like, if it's circumstantial, and if you actually do have to leave like that, I don't know, just give your employer the opportunity to keep you if you want to stay. Don't just get the offer and sign the contract right away. Yeah, that's just my some piece of advice, I guess.
I mean, we could talk about that whole thing for hours, honestly, because like there's so many like nitty-gritty pieces of it that, you could say,
Yeah.
well,
I
if you're new, then you should do this. If you have a better contract and it's in the field that you want to go into, you should do this.
Yeah, just
There's
use
so
your
many things.
judgment and be cool about it.
Yeah,
That's the biggest thing is just don't be a jerk because word will get around. It's a really small industry. Nobody wants to work with somebody who will be aggressive in any sort of manner like that.
right, exactly.
Like
It's
personality is a big thing. That's a lot of interviews at studios are mainly just a personality screening.
yeah, a lot
They
of
they
the
already like the work you're putting out. Yeah.
yeah, personally, the interviews that I've had, they were like, okay, well, we're just honestly, they just talked to me. They didn't care about like what I had to say. They just or like they didn't care about like they weren't judging whether they were gonna hire me or not based on what I said. It was just hanging out. I actually have a friend who his entire interview was while playing pool.
That's
Like,
amazing.
isn't that awesome? And he got the job. It's like they just wanted to see if you can be like friendly and like because if you can talk to the people in your team and share ideas and share experiences with them, the better the production will be because you want to be there. You'll want to share your information with everyone. So obviously, I'm not telling you. I'm telling
Yeah.
my audience.
Yeah. They just want somebody they can stand working with. Bottom line,
Yeah, exactly.
somebody who's going to be capable of producing the work they need, and somebody who will be good to work with. Those are the qualities you need.
Yeah. So earlier you were talking about taking the opportunity to make more money um, because rent was going so high, and I know I live in Vancouver. Everything is extremely expensive here. Well, at least as far as rent and housing and all of that.
It's pretty
Um,
bad, man.
yes, I know it's brutal. Um, so speaking of that, um, how did you? I don't want to ask you like specific wages. We can talk about something like that maybe off camera, but I know that the starting wage is usually around like $16 an hour, something like that. You don't need to tell me what yours was, but um, moving up in the industry, how long did it take you to get from like a junior to a mid level to like more senior status on a production?
Um,
And also with that, sorry, what was the percentage or about the percentage of pay increase? Because I don't want to ask like exact numbers. I don't want to do any of that.
oh yeah.
But if you can be like, yeah, they raised it by 25% or 5% or something, that would be really helpful for the people listening, I'm sure, so they can plan their lives.
Um, well, I took about 9 months to go from junior animator to animator because my contract was 9 months long. I started a little bit later into the production, so it wasn't a full year. I'm sure it would have been a year if it had been a year contract. But yeah, that's how long it took me. I'm sure it's very dependent on how fast you grow as an animator and how fast your work quality and speed increases. Uh, Pay, it varies from person to person. I got a pretty good boost on mine, but you can probably reliably see anywhere from 25 to 50% growth going from junior to animator depending on where you're working and your negotiation skills. I mean, I didn't really push anything for my first contract renewal. I was just happy to have a job being offered back to me.
Very smart.
Yeah, like that's always really scary in the beginning, especially because my parents don't live close by, so I wouldn't have been able to function without the job I had living out here. So that was really good. I gotta get back on my train of thought. I lose my
So
train of
now
thought
from
very easily.
so now
Uh,
from mid tier or like regular animator to like senior. I don't know. Were you ever actually technically senior animator, or were you just
Um,
kind of
it was
higher up?
on the show I was on at the time. I don't think that was ever an official title, but I was considered senior after I I think a year and a half, 2 years of working on it.
And that's as a regular animator, not as a junior, right?
Yeah, yeah. That was after my
So,
promotion from junior to
so
animator.
in between questions, sorry for interrupting, but um, usually in your experience, have you gotten that change in title or pay increase only when you are offered a new contract on a new project, or has it ever been in between a contract?
It's always been renewing contracts, except for that one time when I was going to leave the studio for another one. They amended my contract for that in
Wow,
order to match the pay.
that's really cool. Good job.
Yeah, thanks. But
And
yeah, mainly just your pay increases will depend greatly on how fast you grow as an artist and how bold you are as a wage negotiator. I think that's a big problem with a lot of people, is they're a bit too timid and they just
yeah,
kind of accept what's given to them. But you gotta speak to people, honestly. Like, speak to your lead, speak to other animators that you know, like people you trust and you're friends with, and see if they're comfortable sharing their wages and uh, kind of build your idea of what everyone can make and what you believe you can make as well, and just try and push for a bit more. Like, one good thing to remember is you can push for more, but you don't have to expect it. Like, the worst thing they're going to do is just say, no, we can't do that. This is what we can offer you. Like, you can push for more. Worst thing they're going to do is just say no. They're not just going to be like, well, he's asking too much now. We better cut him loose.
yeah. Honestly, it's like just be humble about it,
Yeah, yeah,
especially on your first jobs. I mean, once you're like senior enough, you can say, "No, I'm worth this," and hand them back the paper with a you cross out the wage they said and hand them back a paper. They obviously you want to be nice about it still, if they're
yeah. That
if
that
they're
comes
like
back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, just don't be a jerk.
yeah, that's like rule of thumb. Just don't be a jerk and don't be stupid. And also, from my experience, they don't like talking about pay, especially in like interviews and stuff. So don't ask. I made the mistake of doing that one time, and it really threw them off.
Oh, in
Um,
the interviews? Yeah. That's
yeah,
something you talk to HR about when they're offering you the contract. They'll
right.
handle that. Don't bring it up in
So
the interview.
just because I remember this right now, I want to say, um, the reason why is because the people interviewing you are going to be your leads. They're going to be your leads lead, or the production coordinator, and they want to see if you're, like we were saying, like a good person to work with. Like just, you're conversational. You're able to actually converse with them. They just want to see like that you're not a jerk, really, and that you're not like I'm all high and mighty, and they want to know that you're passionate about what you're doing. They want to know that you're passionate about the project, because they want the best work done for the project. And the reason why asking your wage is not good in that is because they're not the ones that deal with that kind of thing. And in general, people don't really talk about their wages in the industry. Um,
Yeah.
I didn't really like that because I thought, that's it just is so like shrouded in like this fear of having someone mad at you because you told
Yeah.
someone else your wage. Um,
They'll ask you not to for obvious reasons, like talk about it. But I mean,
yeah, because I mean it
don't
causes
don't
spite
just
between employees sometimes. So
yeah, I guess
I
that's
get
kind of
it.
weird advice to have given earlier. I don't mean like go talk to just anybody, but
Yeah, no,
I
talk to
mean
your
your
friends, like
good friends, like people you can trust,
yeah, and
people
don't
who
be
are
all judgy about it. Just take it as like a fact. Like okay, so a person at this level makes this much. And I will share
yeah,
kind of that kind of stuff on this channel with some of my own stats that I've found. So if you want to know, instead of asking your friends at all, come to this channel and you can find out some of the wages that people are making at different levels in different positions. Um, and that's one of the tools that I'm gonna try to give you guys with this channel. So no, if you want to completely avoid that, that's what you could do. Um, so yeah, they just want to know that you're passionate about the project in the interview, and you know when the reason why I asked was because I was trying to plan for my life, and I'm like, okay, so what am I going to be making for the next year of my life? I kind of wanted to know that. The thing is that that was not the time to ask. It's not that you can't ask that; it's just the wrong person that I did ask. So don't
Yeah.
make that mistake. I made that mistake for you guys.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's okay to experiment too, I'm sure. Like if you don't want to uh, I don't know if it's a rule or what, like go and ask people what they're making. You can just experiment yourself with contract renewals with trying to maybe push for more than you think you might be able to get and just see if they say no or they'll come back to you with another offer and you'll
Right.
slowly round your idea out.
And that's totally one of the
Slowly,
reasons
yeah.
why apply at multiple places. Because let's say there's one contract where you're like, well, I would like that one, but there's this other opportunity that I really would like. So the one that you don't want as much, maybe you'd be like, hey, well, maybe I can get an extra $2, and then it would make it worth it to go do that one. If they say yes, if they say no, you still have the other opportunity. If you're given an opportunity to try something like that, it might be a good time to try it. Of course, again, just rule of thumb: don't be a jerk about it. Don't be like, I'm worth more than that.
Yeah,
Like,
don't be
it's
demanding.
dumb.
Like my advice for people usually when they ask me about this is always ask for more. Because the worst thing that'll happen is they'll say no, or they'll be like, all right, we can do this much instead. In best case scenario, they say yes, and they figure you're worth what you asked.
Yeah, and if you don't
Because
ask, it'll never happen.
yeah, it's hard enough just to get ahead in life with the rising cost of living and everything.
Tell me about it.
Uh, just always strive for more. At least that's my motto.
Yeah, and it's not a sin to ask for more money. Like, you're allowed to. It's
Yeah,
okay. Just
especially if you
just
think you've grown over that course of
yeah,
time. Like
don't
you
ask your
think,
lead.
yeah, no, don't
Ask HR.
ask your lead.
Yeah, cuz
Wait until contract renewals and stuff, and then go for it. That's normal. That's always a safe time is when they're renewing contracts because your wage has been locked for a year. It's fair to be like, yeah, can I kind of? Because I mean, my rent goes up every year. Can we do this? Like,
yeah.
yeah, just I don't know. Try to make sure you're getting what you're worth. A lot of people aren't paid what they're
Exactly.
worth, I think.
I totally agree. Oh, I have two questions that I forgot to ask. Actually, one of them is about your school. Um, did you have like because it was online classes, so did you have like specific times when everyone got onto like a live feed and then they had like a class together, or were they like pre-recorded videos or textbooks, or what happened with your class like that?
There is one time a week that normally the mentor sets, I think, to work with their schedule, that everyone hops into a little chat room and the mentor will come in and hop up on video and he will give you a little lecture, like teach you stuff, answer questions. You can ask him to review your work in front of the class, that sort of stuff. Sometimes they'll pull you up on cam if you're comfortable with that. Um,
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's changed much at all. I think Animation Mentors redesigned their student website recently. I just keep going to the old one out of habit, I think.
Yeah. Hey, don't worry about it. I just want to know from your experience. I'm gonna have someone hopefully on from the school, so don't worry about
Yeah.
it all being up to date. I just want to know your experience.
It was good. I mean, every mentor is different. One of the drawbacks is you might get a mentor you're not particularly thrilled with their teaching style.
Right.
But with 6 classes to go through, you're generally going to get some really good ones. And I had no bad mentors. I just had like good ones and some really good ones that stood out. It was a good experience overall. I definitely recommend Animation Mentor to
And
anybody looking to become an animator, specifically an animator, because that's one thing that I've heard about physical schools around here is they'll spend the first semester teaching you a bit of everything,
yeah.
which if you know what you want in the beginning, I think that's a waste of time. But if you aren't really sure exactly what you're interested in, then that's great. But
Yeah,
if you're sure you want to be an animator, or sure you want to be like a specific thing, then go for something that teaches just that.
Right, and also another thing to think about is if you don't have a computer that's powerful enough to use those programs, a physical school might be better too because they
Yeah.
have the programs, they have it all set up, they have good enough computers. Probably,
At
well, from my experience, way better than enough computers.
at the same time though, like I haven't looked at recent tuition rates for a lot of the schools around here, but I think they can be more expensive. So the savings that you would make online, you could invest in buying yourself a new computer
That is true.
or upgrading. Like that's another way to look at it. Uh,
So, questions with that: how much did your school cost
Animation Mentor.
when you
Again,
went?
I
Not now.
when
When
I
you went.
went, it was $20,000 US, and at the time I was very lucky because the Canadian dollar was even with the US
Yeah,
dollar.
lucky.
Yeah,
Nice.
so that was good timing. It was bad timing when I graduated though because the dollar was so high. We were getting a lot less work over here.
Oh,
So it took me either close to 2 years or a good 2 years to finally land my first animation job.
wow.
I
And what did you
actually,
do
what did I do?
in the meantime?
Oh, that's when I actually got an offer to work for that tech support company again.
Oh,
After a
good.
while, I did like a lot of odd jobs for a long time, but I think it was 5 or 6 months before I finally landed my first animation job. I was just like at the end of uh at the end of my line of credit. My credit card was maxed. I was just like,
Ooh.
I don't know what I'm gonna do, man. Then I got a call from my old boss, and he's just like, "Hey, would you be interested in coming back?" I was just
Wow,
like,
saving
"Yeah,
grace.
yeah, I think I would be interested in that."
That's awesome.
So yeah, that saved my ass.
Yeah, and while you were working for the IT company, then were you also trying to improve your animation skills, or were you still riding off of what you had done in school?
Uh, Mentally, I was having a really tough time, honestly. Like, I was glad to be making money again at a job that I was good at because I was never that great at labor jobs. Um, so I kind of got pretty down about the whole thing. I was like, man, I'm back working here again. And I went to school for 2 years because I took one semester off. I needed to get some more money to pay for the last semester, so it
Yeah,
rounded up to 24 months. Uh, what was I saying?
you were
I was
getting
just
money in
kind
for
of,
the last term. You weren't feeling very good about your job.
yeah, I was like, I don't know if I'm good enough to be an animator. I've only had one interview and they didn't hire me.
Yeah,
I had
that's
everybody
the
telling
thing.
me, they're like, oh, the interview, that's, you got the job pretty much. There's making sure you're not a psycho. Like, getting the interview is the hardest part, and I didn't get it. And I was like, man, what does that mean for my animation? Like, is this something I can do?
See,
So I
that's
was
it. The
pretty,
first job is not always the same rules.
yeah,
I know a lot of people who got interviews for their first job, and the interview was more than that because they are actually asking questions that they want to know and like seeing your skill level, and like it's a lot more. You're there your very first interview. Don't be freaked out about it, but it's like still just like be yourself, be chill. Don't ask dumb questions like how much you're
yeah,
gonna make. um,
yeah,
but yeah, it can be more than you know. Most of your other interviews, once you're actually in the industry, are a lot easier. That first interview, getting that first job, that's the hard thing. Once you finish school, that's hard. Yes, getting that first job might be harder, and it is brutal on your brain thinking that you're not good enough and you wasted your money. And oh my god, there's so much. And like I know I felt the exact same stuff. I know a lot of people that felt the exact same way, and they're just like, you just got to keep working at trying to get animation jobs, and like don't give up on it right away and keep working towards getting better, whether that means joining a class, watching my videos. And I make playlists actually of like online courses, so like people that have made free videos on YouTube. I have playlists on this channel that you can like go watch all of their videos. That would probably help you too. Keep working, making new animations, and like if that's really what you want to do, and if you keep working at it, eventually you'll find the thing that you're missing, and then things will work out. But it might take a long time. I know it seems really discouraging when you're in that's a tough time, dude,
it,
especially 2 years. Wow.
yeah, it was super discouraging. I was just, I was ready to give up, and I actually applied to a local school to become an IT guy. I had like given the
Oh.
application money and stuff, and I was ready to get in. But I was talking to a friend about it, and she just said something really simple to me. She's like, "I'm disappointed you're giving up in your dream to become an animator just to go for something easy." And I was like,
That's
"Oh
brutal.
man, I'm disappointed in me too." Like it kind of sunk in over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So I decided to give it one last like all my effort, kind of 100% try. So I booked off a week. I used all my holidays at that job that I'd accumulated, and I booked off a week to just work on updating my demo reel with some shot that I'd started and never finished, and like a couple new ones. So I just spent all my time updating my reel, and then some animation career fair was coming up in Vancouver. I think it's called like Sparks or something.
Yeah, Spark Animation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
My
So
teacher is one of the heads of that. Yeah.
oh, nice. Yeah, that place is super useful. You should definitely go there if you're looking for work. I decided to. So I updated my reel. I fired my reel out to as many studios as I could think of. And then I went to Spark and I handed out my resume. I like had the link to my reel and everything there. I met people and went back to work and was like, well, I guess we'll see. I tried. And was it like 6 weeks after that, I got a call and an
Dude.
interview, and I made it. I got a
Dude.
job.
I love that story. That's awesome.
it
Congrats. I love that.
it was so relieving when I got it. I was so happy. It's just like I can't believe it's actually happening. The, I
That's
had
I love it.
I
I love
had
it.
made one mistake before I decided to go do all that. I bought a motorcycle and I was like, I need something exciting in life. I'm so bored. So I
Oh, that
bought a
makes sense now.
bike and then I had like this financing hanging over my head. It was like $210 a month. It was manageable where I was at the time because it was like really cheap to live there. I was making enough money to pay for it and run it. And I was like, this should be fun. And then I got the job and I was making the same amount, but in a way more expensive place to live. So it was that first year was paycheck to paycheck, but I paid my dues. I made it work. And then then you get that promotion from junior to animator and things level out a lot after that. Like that's one fear I had actually while I was working as a junior. It was so stressful because I was so new to the industry and I wasn't that fast. I was working like every statutory holiday just to make sure I kept up with my work. I never wanted to fall behind. And I needed that job. Like I was new. I was scared. I wanted to make sure I made a good impression and never was like behind with my quota, which I'm sure like everyone goes for when they're new at this. Um, what was my point? You can see I like derail
Yeah,
all
dude,
the
that's fine.
time when
I'll remind
talking.
you. So you're saying that yeah, once you got your first job, like that first year was just a grind and you
Oh,
were
right.
like
Yeah,
staying
yeah.
late.
That was one of my fears was the amount of money I was making. It was just enough to like squeak by, and I was having these thoughts like, is this really what I went to school for 2 years for?
Yeah, just
It
squeaking by.
the whole magic was kind of wearing off there just because I was barely squeaking by, but because I didn't know what you'd end up making after that, like what kind of pay gaps there are between the different types of animators
Right,
and
because
how
people don't
much.
talk about that. Exactly
Yeah,
why one of
exactly.
the reasons
Like
I'm making this channel.
as a junior, don't freak out. You
Yeah,
gotta kind
it's a
of
small
get that
stage to get
initial.
past.
Yeah, you get through that initial grind. You make it work. Like I was making very little, but I was well not. If I didn't have the bike, I could have lived a lot more comfortably, I think. But I was making just enough to kind of get by and pay the financing and like live. I was just making food every day. I wasn't eating out. Like going to see a movie or something was like once a month affair. You make it work, and once you get that promotion is when things will be worthwhile. Like just make sure you don't get discouraged as a junior after school, being like, oh god, I could just go work for like a call center and make the same thing. Just
Right, but
Get
there's the
get through it.
opportunity there. You got to remember that.
Exactly. Like the ladder extends so much further in a career job like this.
Yeah,
Don't get discouraged. Grind through it. It'll be worth it in the end. Because
yeah.
I didn't know, and that was terrifying for me.
Well, dude, I love that story. That was awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Not a problem. If I hope I can at least spark some form of inspiration in somebody listening.
Yeah, I mean, guys, I know this sounds cliche, but leave it down in the comments if he actually did help you out, because like I'm sure that he would love to see that. Like if his story inspired you or anything, like that'd be
Or
really
if
cool.
I
I'll
can
make sure
help
that
you
he
through a
sees.
tough time.
Yeah,
Like you just don't know, and you don't know what the future holds for
yeah,
your job
yeah.
or after school. Yeah, but yeah, just keep at it. Animation is it's very dependent on how much you want it. Like
Agreed.
when you're out of school, you have to keep working on your reel. You can't just keep your student reel, and you have to be pretty good, I think, to get a job right out of school. Like you have to have fairly exceptional work. Just keep practicing. If you don't get a job right away, just keep practicing. It'll come eventually.
Yeah, I mean, in school, what you do like maybe 12 animations that like you might send to a studio, and like you got to do a lot more than that to make something that's good enough to be put on TV, to be put on Netflix, to be put on into the big theater. So just keep working at it, and sometimes there are anomalies where like you're just amazing and get hired at Pixar like out of school, but
Yeah,
that's
I've heard
one
some of those
in
stories.
every like 10 years. So yeah, I've heard two of those stories ever. um and you know what, it's just about keeping working on it, like keep working on it and keep help trying to be inspired. I hate plugging my own stuff, but I honestly think that what I'm like providing is a helpful tool for you guys. So like if you want to join the Facebook group, I try to put animations that inspire me there. Just scroll down and you'll see a whole bunch of animations that inspire me. Other people post the stuff they're inspired by, post the stuff you're inspired by, and you know what? That's like how we all work together to keep getting better. So that'd be really cool. Again, link in the description. Sorry for plugging my own stuff. I know I'm
Yeah,
terrible.
that's all right. And the whole like work together thing is another good point. Like when you're in school, try to make as many contacts as you can.
Yeah.
Uh, Speak to your instructors. Like any extra help they're willing to give you, definitely take it.
Yeah.
Is That's one thing that I wanted to mention too is online school versus physical school. When I left Animation Mentor, I had no contacts in Canada, which I think is one thing that held me back.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to a physical school, you'll be making contacts with people that live around you. The instructors sometimes are people that'll actually be working in the industry, and maybe they just teach part time, like after work, that sort of thing. I know a couple animation supervisors who do that.
Yeah, that's actually
That's
how I got all my jobs.
Yeah, like
is
that's
my
how one of
night
my friends
mentors.
got her first job too.
Yeah.
So take advantage of it, make contacts, and that's the whole other thing about like make sure you present yourself well. Like don't be a jerk. Make
Yeah,
sure people like you. Yeah,
be humble and impress them. That
yeah,
from my experience, that's what worked best for me.
yeah,
I
yeah,
wasn't like intentionally doing it. It just happened to work out for me. And then I don't want to use names or anything, but they'll know if they're listening to this exactly who they are. They wanted me on their teams after, and it's because like I showed them. They gave me some notes, and before they even left the school for like their 3 hour class, I had already addressed the notes and was like, yeah, so what you told me to do for the next week, I finished it in the last hour. So maybe you can like check it out and give me some more notes. And
yeah,
then they were like, I want that person on my team because that's exactly what you're doing in this, in work. Addressing notes is a big thing. And if you can do it quickly, if you can, make small changes very
yeah,
quickly,
yeah.
like
And
that's huge.
that's a big advantage to going to a physical school is being able to show local instructors just how hungry you are for it. Like how likable you can be to work around and to how open you are to taking criticism is very important. Those are qualities that they look for in a person. Whereas Animation Mentor, you learn a lot. It's great teaching animation, but the mentors you have are going to be people at like DreamWorks, Pixar, Disney, maybe a game studio, other places like that. Places that, uh,
They're
I
kind of
mean,
end
they're,
game.
yeah, unless
You work
you,
towards those.
yeah, like it's not. I guess it depends on if you live in the United States, but you're probably not going to be local living near those people, so they're not going to be able to be like, yeah, come work at my studio as
Yeah.
easily as somebody maybe that teaches at a school. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
That's great advice, dude.
It seems like a big advantage going to a physical school for
But
that
also
alone. Yeah,
the price, you paid 20,000 for a year and a half,
yeah,
and for me, because I do live in Canada, I paid I think it was 35 or 36,000, something like that, to go to Vancouver Film School. I'll have to check my
yeah.
records, but if you're international, you have to pay 50,000. So it's a little bit more of a hit, and that's a 1 year program.
That's a
So
lot.
it's a lot.
Another thing that you could do, I guess, is take an online course. And if you live in an area where there is typically a lot of animation studios, you can you can research maybe like local animation clubs or groups that do meetups.
Hmm.
Seems you're working into the same industry. You
Yeah,
should
CG meetup.
qualify to get into that. Yeah. And you can go meet up with people in your local area and make contacts that way. So you could save money and also make contacts in your free time.
Yeah, and it's
Uh,
fun. They just go out for beer. Like, I mean, if you're not old enough for that, they go out to restaurants where, like whatever. They go out for bowling and a minor. Um, and yeah, you just go ahead, meet people, ask them about their life experiences, like kind of maybe don't record them and put it onto the internet like I'm doing, but just make some friends that way. And honestly, those people will probably stick with you, for the rest of your life. If you make a friend in the industry, like that's how I've gotten every single one of my jobs. How about you?
what friends? Local friends?
Yeah, like have like to get your jobs, have you is it mostly just
Oh,
based on your own merit, or has it been because of your contacts that you know?
the first one was based on my own merit because I didn't know anybody, and then everyone after that has either been through a contact or one I got just from contacting a guy through LinkedIn.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he just liked my work and he's like, "Yeah, I'll get you an interview."
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's another thing. I've seen the question asked before by some people if LinkedIn is really worth it. I always thought it was like this. I didn't really know what to think of it when I was younger going through school because it never did anything for me and it didn't seem to generate any interviews. Nobody messaged me through it for any animation related stuff. I just had a bunch of contacts and my resume and portfolio sat there. I was like, do people even use this thing? Like, what is LinkedIn for? But it is actually a good tool for gaining employment in the animation industry. It's my only experience with it. But yeah, like it
Uh-huh.
is very widely used. LinkedIn is actually way more important than it may seem while you're going through school.
Yeah, obviously very very professional. Don't use it as Facebook. That's one thing I've seen
Yeah. Oh,
hinder people's chances of getting a job.
or yeah, don't post your personal life on there. Keep it professional.
Yeah.
Post your animation, demo reel updates and
And
stuff.
only your best work. If you have old work, maybe even take that down, because
Yeah.
like to get a job, you only want them to see what you're going to do on your best day.
That's
Okay?
one thing I'm going to be doing with my reel soon is purging all the old stuff.
Yeah, it's super important, honestly.
Yeah.
From everyone that I've talked to, it's like they question it a lot if they see something that is not up to the standard of everything else in the reel. They'll go, why is that on there? Can they not tell that that's not up to quality? You
Yeah,
know?
and plus, like, recruiters can have a short attention span just because the amount of reels they watch per
Yeah.
day. Like, they're just gonna, I don't know, if you're not wowing them at least most of every corner on your reel, then you need to trim it down a bit. So long as it's
Yep.
at least, I'd say 30 seconds minimum, that's good. But even then, like if you've got stuff that is obvious, just fluff, take it out. You'll build it up with better stuff over time, and just keep striving to build it up with better work.
So I
But
have one last question, kind of having to do with what we were just talking about, because what I was told in school was like you want to present your work rendered and it has to be nice. There has to be nice models around it. Do you think that that's true? And it kind of leads into a second question.
um,
Or do you think it's like viewport rendering is perfectly adequate for an animation reel?
that I think it depends on the recruiter, honestly, because normally recruiters aren't animators. They just see stuff that looks good, and if it looks good to them, they'll send it off to the director of a show that they're hiring for, and then that guy will judge your reel. Um, I
I
think that
think
rendering and making your shots look pretty can help. Like it definitely shows that you put the extra effort in. So if you have a choice between doing one or the other, I would say render it and make it look nice.
so.
But I
Let's
also have a
say
friend. She is actually an amazing animator and has worked her way up quite far in the animation industry. She says she just play blast, throw it up there, doesn't need to bother with rendering. She doesn't care. So
yeah,
there's two ends of the spectrum to it, but
and
in
also
my
yeah,
opinion, just go for it if you are able to. I rendered everything just on my computer here.
yeah. I mean, just throw it up overnight and just let it render overnight, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just run some errands during the day, let it run throughout the night. Like there's nothing really holding you back from it.
Yeah, if you have to like spend weeks to try to learn how to render and whatever, maybe it won't be worth it. But if you're spending, so what I'm trying to say is like if you're spending your time where you could be learning how to animate better or practicing animation to learn how to like render, it's not really a point in that.
Yeah,
It's much better to have a nice animation, like
y-
a better
absolutely.
animation than
Yeah.
to have it rendered.
Yeah, the I think the only time I could see not rendering being the best option was if you're in a rush. Like some place is hiring and you don't know how long they're hiring for. You really want to get in there, just play blast your work, slap it together, and give
And
it to them.
that's a really good thing about Vimeo is you can actually update a video. So you can have the same link and everything, and you can update the video or the audio separately.
I
I
I
think
heard
so.
about that recently. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you send them a link and like put up the a temporary demo reel just so in case they see it that day because they're hiring and they have like 2 days left to hire. They can see it. But if they want to look at it in the future too, you can update that actual video and it will stay the same link and whatever will just will go to your new updated demo reel. It's just in the
Exactly.
settings of the
Yeah.
video.
I think a lot of people make portfolio websites too. I think that's probably more important if you're applying to like big feature film studios to have a nice presentable website. But I had
Yeah.
one to begin with. I
So
don't
you
have
don't
one
have one
now.
anymore?
I just have a domain name that forwards to my Vimeo demo reel.
Okay, that's pretty
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, but I think for
You think
standing
TV
out a
just
little bit more for film, you probably want to have something fancy. Probably not
but like
necessary, but it
for
probably
TV,
helps.
just a Vimeo account would be good enough.
I'd say so.
Because they just need to see
Uh,
your work, essentially, right?
That's the thing is it's like 99% it's just your demo reel. They're not gonna judge your animation skills off of how nice your WordPress website looks or whatever you use.
Yeah,
I think I
exactly.
just bought like a WordPress site and made that into my portfolio.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
Um, oh yeah. So, would you say the question that rolled into the other question? This is the second part of it. That was terribly worded. I'm sorry, but um, do you feel like it is necessary or just an asset to know rigging? Maybe being good at drawing, knowing 2D animation, maybe modeling if you're an animator. Do you think it's important to know those things or necessary?
I've been in the industry close to 5 years and I've never needed any of those things. The
All
closest
right.
thing I've needed to modeling is making little proxy effects, which is normally just like spheres and cubes and making them transparent and stuff for explosions and whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that stuff's more along the lines of if you want to do your own personal projects, that would be useful. But if you're just animating, I've never needed that. I mean, the more knowledge you have, the better off you are, but uh, you can get by without it just fine.
Yeah. So, do you know anyone that it has maybe improved how much money they're making, or just made them a better animator because they knew how to program or code something, a rig or something like that?
Uh, the girl I mentioned earlier who doesn't bother with rendering or anything for her demo reel, she is quite good with scripting and I think learned basic rigging and stuff. More technical things involving Maya can actually help you with setting up shots in certain ways that make life easier for animation. So her scripting knowledge has helped her out, and I think she's got like really basic rigging knowledge that has helped her set up shots, like technical shots,
Okay.
in ways that have made the animation a lot easier. So that stuff can help.
Yeah,
It
so
all adds up. Yeah.
in your experience, it might help while talking in an interview, it might help on a resume, but it's not necessary to get the job at all.
Not to get the job. I've heard that if you are good at scripting, though, that it can help with how much a studio will want to hang on to you and how much they're willing to pay you. I've heard that. I don't know scripting myself, so I haven't tested the execution of it, but that's what I've heard. So I'd say, yeah, get good at scripting if
All
that's
right.
something that concerns you.
So out of all of those, you'd say scripting is probably the most important.
Yeah, I guess. Like, I don't really have much experience with a whole lot of how it
Well, yeah,
would
just the people that you know,
help.
though.
Um, from what I've heard, I think scripting would probably be the most important. I think it affects animation more than knowing how to rig
Okay.
would, because you have the rigging department that would take care of that. But I think that a lot of the time it's animators building scripts to help with animation and stuff, and they really like that. Anything to make the show go by smoother.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Yeah.
Um, and one specific question off of that is, this is actually from one of my fans, which is kind of cool. Um, so have you felt that drawing is a necessity when um, actually working as an animator, not just to like get the job or whatever, like actually while you're working, have you ever had to use drawing skill because they've seen um, that you have to like draw over animation sometimes to, for notes and whatever.
Um,
So what's your opinion on that?
I don't really have a ton of drawing skill myself, but it does help if you're a lead or a director. You drawing over animation is a huge visual aid to the people beneath you. Like I always love a lead that that draws over shots. That helps a lot with getting their point across. Um, helping with the job in general, I heard one of my lead animators say once when he was talking to a friend of mine who's quite good at drawing. He says he feels that the people who can draw really well generally do better in their career as animators as the people who can't, but that was just kind of like an offhanded comment at the time. That there's not a huge basis for that. Um, personally, I think acting, being able to act well,
Yeah.
helps the most because I, f- I find I have really crappy acting skills and it hurts my reference videos that I shoot for like personal work or anything. Anytime I need a reference video, it can be challenging for me because I'm not the best actor. It's something I'd love to get better at. Because
Okay.
if you can shoot a convincing reference shot, then you can just animate that, and you have a very convincing base to work with right away.
Yeah, I actually
Uh,
know what's interesting that you mentioned that because I know some people on one of the productions that was in the same studio that I was working at. They
yeah.
had one or two people that did all of the reference for everybody
Oh,
because they
that's
were just
amazing.
so much better at doing the reference. So they just did it for everyone, and everyone went off of their reference, and the
Probably
show
saves
improved
time so long as they're
exponentially because of that.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. If you have some people who are like quite dedicated to it, maybe reduce their workload slightly to account for the time they're spending shooting reference, so long as they
Right.
like doing it for everyone else, because that can save time in the long run. It can
Yeah,
save the
totally.
time of your animators shooting and reshooting their reference, trying to get it right. If they're not like, if that's not really their thing or they're not too good at it. And yeah, it just helps everyone overall. That sounds pretty rad.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if you all ever want to suggest that, I mean, it's it's a pretty good idea. Or get somebody else that you know that is really good at shooting reference to shoot yours, and say like, hey, I'll take some of your shots off your plate. It can
yeah,
be set up for sure.
I had one friend in school. He just volunteered to shoot a bunch of different takes for my reference video for me, and that was really nice of him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Um, but yeah, to with regards to your fan asking about drawing, I would say definitely keep drawing and try to strive to get better at that and just improve. Like it's not gonna hurt you. Anything like acting or drawing or anything to do kind of in the realm of animation and acting and just film is never gonna hurt you when it comes to animation. Like that stuff will only make you stronger.
Well, dude, thank you so much for all of the advice that you gave on here, for talking with me, for sharing your stories. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. It was a pleasure.
So that's the end of the podcast. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave any of your questions about the industry down in the comments down below. And if my friend here wants anything linked, it'll be the first link in the description. And otherwise, if you know who he is, please don't put it in the comments. We don't want anyone doxxed here. It's not cool. Don't do it. So yeah, thank you for coming on, man. And yeah, I hope to talk to you soon again.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, man. And yeah, you guys don't forget to smile. I'll see you in the next one.